Welcome back to the Home Lab, and today it's time to share this year's Christmas project. It's a Buzzwire Angel with a few additions. It's got a flashing Christmas tree and sound. So, how did this project come about? Well, last year we were staying with friends in Germany for Sylvester, that's the New Year, and on their mantelpiece was a tea light with a little wire angel behind it, and I thought that would make a really good Buzzwire project. I then went and forgot all about it, as you do with Christmas being a year ahead, and it wasn't until the August bank holiday that we were out at a steam fair, and in one of the display tents was a Buzzwire project that was a steam engine that Barry had a go with. So I thought it's about time I got thinking about what I could make as my Christmas project, but I wanted to make it with a few additions. So let's have a look at what I made. But just before we start, I want to say again a huge thank you to all of you for supporting my little channel, and I've really been interested by some of the comments you've left. I also want to say my thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, and as I always say, they always get in touch with me and say, what are you going to make next? Could you make another video? Which encourages me to make more content. As you know, they do bespoke printed circuit boards, and they can really help you with the projects you're doing, even if it's CNC machining or 3D printing. So why not head over to their website and have a look at what they can offer your projects. To start with, I decided to build it out of stiff brass wire, so I bought a 2 metre length of 3mm diameter brass wire, which would be stiff enough so that it was not easily bent and damaged once the item was built. And with the arrival of the wire, I was able to spend a long and finger-sore evening bending the brass wire to the angel shape using the printed angel picture as a template. To assist with this, I formed parts of the angel around various items, using them as mandrels, or as I believe the correct term is triplets. The angel shape came out quite well, so I gave some thought as how to mount it. It suddenly occurred to me that I had lots of brass M3 hex standoffs, which would make great feet for the angel. To do this, I needed to tap an M3 thread on each upright, and this proved to be easier to do with just the central part of the die holder in my hand. I put some heat shrink sleeving to act as an insulator on each leg, and then fitted them with the threaded hex standoffs, followed by a blast with a heat gun to fix the sleeving. I used some of the spare 3mm brass wire to make the loop, and whilst I had the heat gun out, I made a handle for it out of some more heat shrink sleeving in yellow. With the wire bending and the angel complete, it was now time to work on the base and its associated electronics. I ordered an A3 sheet of transparent Mars Red Christmassy 3mm Perspex, having already mocked out what I thought I would need for the base on scrap card. With the CAD, cardboard aided design, done, I cut out the right size rectangular Perspex on the desk bandsaw, a tool I find really useful. To make sure that I was not totally immersed in my own world of project making, I made sure the family was kept happy with marshmallow toasting on the garden fire pit. Always good fun in any weather. I then marked out most of the holes that I needed to drill on paper, and drilled these out before bending the Perspex into the shape I wanted for the stand. I needed to drill and cut out a few more holes later, but that would not be too hard to do with the stand already bent into shape. A classic case of not planning everything out in advance. By the way, a good hack if you don't want drill swarf to go everywhere is to stick a piece of paper on top of what you're drilling, and most of the swarf gets caught underneath it rather than being spread out all over your workbench and the house. With a gentle application of the heat gun, I bent the Perspex into shape to make the base for the angel. It was a cold day outside, and the Perspex seemed to cool down as soon as the heat gun was removed, making it difficult to bend to the desired shape, but I got there in the end. My partner had suggested that it should play a Christmas tune. So to keep things simple, I ordered one of those Christmas card sounders which plays Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I'm not sure though if that will make for a copyright strike on YouTube. I thought I'd better trial the circuit first, even though it's very simple. So, with the latching function on, the music keeps playing if the wires ever touch. The second green LED that comes on will be replaced with a non-flashing red one indicating that the wires have been touched. Separating the green wires represents you pushing the reset on the latching function. And now here it is with the latching function being switched off, so it only plays when the wires are actually touching. With a bit more drilling, I was able to start to mount some of the electronic components and begin to get them wired up. A task that took me rather longer than I'd anticipated, but took me back to my early forays into electronics as a kid, when I liked to build valve electronic circuits on aluminium frames with point-to-point wiring rather like this. So let's have a quick look at the circuit, and this will explain really well what I've built and how it actually works. So the two things to notice really are there's a power supply here with this rail being negative at all times, and here inside this dotted black box is a relay with two separate sets of contacts which are normally open. So when the relay circuit is not working, in other words the coil's not magnetic, these switches are disconnected. So let's turn it on with this switch here, and if the power comes on, this is negative, this bit here is positive, and all of these LEDs down here, they're the multiple LEDs for the Christmas tree, will light up, and they're flashing LEDs. The next thing to note is that the positive of the battery, if switched on, is connected to the coil of the relay, but there's no return path for the current down to minus. So that will only happen when the loop touches the metal angel. Then there'll be a current path through the relay coil all the way along here, down through the angel and down to minus. Now if that happens, the coil becomes magnetic and both of these switches are pulled across to the left. Well, if you look here, there's a separate little circuit with its own power supply, which is the Christmas card sounder playing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and when this coil becomes magnetised, when you've touched the metal wire on the angel, the switch will flick over to the left and turn on this circuit and it will play the sound. At the same time, this switch will move across to here, but you'll notice that if we come down here, there's no current path through here. So in fact, that switch has no effect. But if we switch this switch on, then if you touch here, this all becomes negative, the coil becomes magnetic, a current will pass down through here and through this switch and down to minus. Now if we go backwards, if you look this way, if the coil is magnetised and that switch is on, and so this switch moves across, then this will be negative at all times. So that's the latching effect. So how do you stop it from latching? You make sure that the top of the relay coil is disconnected from minus. So you press this switch briefly, and that's the press to break the circuit. So it's quite an interesting little arrangement, this. If you haven't seen it before, it's a really clever way of forcing relays, once switched on, to stay on and remain connected. And obviously, if this switch is open, then this circuit will do nothing at all, and so the latching effect won't work. So in general, it's a pretty simple circuit. I've added an LED as well, just to show when the latching circuit is on. You might wonder what the green mirrored Christmas tree is for. At a late stage in the project, I noticed that mysteriously the right-hand corner of the stand was cracked and broken under the protective foil cover. I had no idea how this had happened, and I certainly hadn't dropped it. So I put the blame on Barry. But you could, of course, forgive him anything. So I decided to cut out a piece of green mirrored perspex with a Christmas theme to cover up the unfortunate breakage, And, in fact, I think it looks really rather good in the end. By the way, it's well worth keeping a few of those children's clothes hangers, as they make great free clamps for projects. And with those removed, I could start my favourite bit, removing the protective film from the Perspex to see the project in its full glory. So, with all the electronic components mounted on the stand and connected, it was time to introduce it to the family and see what they thought of my latest build. And in general, I think it was a great success. So you turn it on the left, black button, and see what you can do. So I do hope you enjoyed that video and this build project, and perhaps you feel inspired to have a go yourself. Thank you for supporting me throughout the year. Do subscribe to the little channel and please leave comments whenever you feel you want to. I really enjoy the two-way process. Remember, always stay on after I've finished speaking, because I always edit in a few extra bits that you might not have seen in the film, and there are always some links to other videos at the end. But do have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and I'll be back in the new year with some more FJ's Physics, so do please join me then.